Thank you. That was really just beautifully sung. Hey, you know you have 8 more days of Christmas, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just don't want you to forget that. You know why you have 8 more days of Christmas? Because people centuries ago, Christians centuries ago, realized that we're slow learners. And we're not very bright sometimes. And that includes and extends up into our culture today too, because we get assaulted by all kinds of demons and devils and horrible things, including affluenza and all of the stuff that goes with consumer life. And we forget that Jesus was born sometimes, and we forget the real gift of Christmas from the Lord, which is peace, love, and joy. So I would suggest to you, for the next 8 days, you learn how to paint a fake smile on, even if you're not feeling particularly happy. And you all know how to do that fake smile thing because you're good Christians and you're going to try to bring joy to people even when you're miserable. Because part of the gift that God has given you is the ability to recognize and appreciate the presence of God in the whole world. Even if your life is in the toilet, other people's lives are not. And you can appreciate and have regard and joy for their life. So you learn to put a smile on it and say, thank you, Lord, for their lives. Now, the promise also during this season of Christmas, and the reason that we extended, or the church centuries ago decided that we needed to extend it out, was because sometimes it's pretty easy to miss the presence of God in your own life. Look at Joseph, for example. All of you have dreams, right? And I take it some of you actually remember your dreams from time to time. Other times they're just like craziness running through in living color all over the place, and you can't remember them, and it's probably just as well. On occasion you do remember them. I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago, and I will say both he and she so that you won't know if it was a guy or a lady, and you can't guess who it is then. Although you can try if you so choose, if it's worth your time. I don't think it will be. Who had been having some goofy dreams about being chased, and was being chased by people that he knew. And they would always catch up to him, and just before they caught up to him, he was waking up. And he couldn't quite get, she couldn't quite get what was going on with all of that. And then she finally realized that there were people in her present day life who were trying to get close, as in friendship ties, which of course, you know, friendship goes through stages, right? From acquaintance to a little bit more intimacy, sharing of information, to more intimacy and trustworthiness and all of those things that go with it. And what he would always do with most of his life was to run away from that as fast as he could when somebody got a little bit too close. And so he had reached a point in his life when he was saying, you know, maybe it's time to stop running. And so he was getting his messages through his dreams, and it was starting to make some sense to him. How it's going to turn out, I don't know. But at least he certainly understands that he spent his life running from people who have tried to get too close to him. And as a result, has led a life filled with people surrounding him, but also feeling very lonesome at the same time. And saying, you know, I don't think that's real good anymore. Doesn't work so good. So anyhow, the Lord communicates by means of dreams. If you read through the first couple of chapters of Matthew, Joseph, who never speaks a word, right? John Wayne type, my kind of guy, right? Huh? Strong, silent type, doesn't say a word. However, here's the other thing. He's also a bright guy. He gets his dreams from the Lord direct. And it's not quite as easy as you can imagine when you have dreams to sort it all out. But at least he was smart enough of a guy to realize when he woke up, you realize that you are a combination, as the great commandment says, love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength, and with all of your intellect, your mind. And so in the interpretation of that dream, Joseph did that and realized that Herod, who had a reputation as a killer in any case, was likely to do what the dream said. So he got his family out of there. And so in that case, the Lord communicated through dreams to Joseph to both protect and save his family, his wife and his baby. And here's the irony of the other way in which God communicates is by means of history. I know modern Americans, we don't do history very much anymore, right? We do technos, technology. We don't ask questions so much of meaning anymore. We ask questions of value and financial worth and gain. We don't ask questions of how the Lord is acting in history. But keep in mind, where did they flee to? They fled to Egypt, which throughout the ancient world was known as the primary slave-owning, slave state in the ancient world. And it was the place from which Israel had fled with Moses. And now it becomes the location of salvation for that family, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. And so God uses history. That's the other piece that you should be pulling out of this additional part of the Christmas story, that God uses history as one of the ways in which he makes things happen. Whatever goes out from him in history is going to come back to him useful. And so Egypt has come back to the Lord useful by saving his son. So there's another piece there that goes in terms of how God will communicate with you in your own life. History doesn't repeat itself precisely, but there's some parallels in terms of history. Here's another way you can figure it out. What's the function of babies besides pooping, tinkling, keeping you up all night, and otherwise being irritating when you're tired? In the Bible, babies function as a question mark. Here is this baby in the world. Now what? And therefore functions as a prophetic, crying voice to the world of power, money, and decision-making. What will you, King Herod? What will you, Congress? What will you, President? What will you, Premier? What will you, Emperor and King, do now with the babies? You see the prophetic nature of babies? That's what they function as in the Bible. A question mark about the kind and style of future which will be present not only for them, but also obviously for their parents. And that is another gift that you and I have been given. The gift to be able to see the nature of prophecy occurring as it does in daily living. A baby is always a prophecy about the future and the present. Now, within the context of the story of Christmas, you have a message of peace and goodwill, which the angels sang about, that was the gift that was coming to earth. And because that gift has come to earth, it then has to be shaped, because a gift dangling all by itself isn't much of an impact. You need a lot of gifts in order to have a strong impact. You know that as well as I do, right? The more that you can link your gifts together, the more people you can clothe, for example. The more llamas you can buy. Yeah, my wife, I was looking for sweat socks. Gosh darn, she bought me a llama. And it is somewhere overseas, Sal, and I don't know what country it's in. But God bless her, I love her for it. And then she bought Chris chicks. They're somewhere else in the world, I don't know where. But you see what happens when you pull together a bunch of millions of dollars? You can buy an awful lot of llamas and chicks. And you know what? That's going to keep a lot of people alive, and it's going to teach them even further than that. And she also bought my daughter an irrigation ditch. Well, you know, you can't do irrigation wherever there are wars overseas. What happens, you always, when you're losing, you want to poison the water, right? So that you're as retreating, you know, you don't have a place that the army that's winning can come in and support itself. You want to increase their supply line, so you poison the water. And that's what's been happening all over the world. So, you need irrigation ditches so that you can fertilize and enrich the soil and grow crops and the whole shooting match. But again, that's groups of people gathering millions of dollars together in order to proclaim that kind of good news of peace and goodwill. So you see, it isn't just a matter of us being a Mammoth house, but we are a place of action house. Planning, plotting, styling, figuring out how to do it, that is while we work with peace and goodwill. Because after all, you and I have been called to gather into communities of faith so that we can practice the art of peacemaking, peacekeeping, loving our neighbors, and goodwill. And that is the beginning of the Christmas story and how that all begins to develop and evolve, as you well know. Now, when you have the contrast between God as king and King Herod as king, you can begin to see with great clarity the difference in the messages, no? The baby becomes the question mark prophetically. What will we do with the babies? What does God do? God saves the babies. A baby. Herod kills babies. Doesn't matter how. It can be public policy. It can be with the kind of violence that was used by Herod. It doesn't matter how you kill a baby. It's just enough that you do it. It's a choice that is made. And so we worship a king who saves babies. The other thing that occurs, and this is where it becomes also really important for you and I to understand that the message of the gospel as a people of peace and goodwill in which we are being shaped is that we become God's arms and legs. God promises maximum support, but He Himself promises minimum protection. Do you understand the difference? God promises minimum protection and promises maximum support. By means of that, He shapes a people all over the world to practice the maximum protection that He Himself will not provide. That's called responsibility and accountability on our part as people of faith. And that's our calling, to be people of peace, peacemaking, peacekeeping, people of goodwill, people of hope. We are the ones who provide the maximum protection. Now that's the good news that we have to offer the world. You see how it all works and how it all fits together so nice? We become God's muscle. He's given us the brains, the power, the knowledge, the wisdom, the spiritual gifts in which to pull together the pieces that we need to pull together for the sake of the world. And that is the gift that we have to offer at the Christmas season. And that's why Christmas goes for 12 days, because I guarantee you, you're not going to wrap your head around this in a 12-minute sermon on Christmas Eve singing Silent Night. Takes just a tad longer to pull that together in your brain. And also then how you're going to shape your life around that whole idea and that notion of peacemaking and peacekeeping and being a person of goodwill, and also being the protection and protector of babies. And you know as well as I do that you occasionally need babysitters too. Because moms and dads get tired. And that's why a community really matters. And whether it be your community of your family, community of your neighbors, or a community of people you pay, doesn't matter. You need support and backup. And that is the kind of giftedness that God gives to all of us. That's why He shaped the community of the church. Not just St. Paul's, but all churches. Those of us who understand our role in the world as citizens of the kingdom of God know full well that we can have an impact in the world, and a very positive one. So I'm happy. One of these years I'm going to go visit that blessed Lama. I'll find out where it is. Track them down like a mad dog, just like the fox says. By the way, I like that song because that was King Herod's nickname, the fox. Yeah, so every time I hear that song, fox. See, you think I'm thinking fox, I'm not, I'm thinking King Herod. I'm thinking this is not a good boy. We do not like those kind of leaders, and well, we should not. The kind of leaders we should regard and have high respect for is the leadership of God our Father, who leads us through our dreams, through the fulfillment of the prophecies, through the question marks that the prophecies ask of us, and through the way in which we shape ourselves as a community of peace and goodwill. A lot of good news here. But it takes more than one Christmas Eve service to wrap your brain around it. So you got 8 more days. We'll talk some more. God bless you. Amen.